Hello and welcome to another edition of When the Cockerel Crows. It's the YouTube channel with me, Paul, and we are talking all things Tottenham. And it's a very, very sad day once again. Yes, it's When the Cockerel Crows with me, Paul. We're going out on YouTube and also we go live on shows on Twitch. Don't forget our Facebook page. You can look us up on Facebook, When the Cockerel Crows. Please like, subscribe, follow, and all that kind of jazz. Okay, the dust has settled. It's just over 24 hours since our latest defeat after our run of beating Brentford and also Slavia Prague in the Champions League. We are brought back down to earth with a massive bump by losing yesterday. So this is going out on Monday. Yesterday, we lost away to Nottingham Forest by 3-0. Very, very, very poor performance, but it runs much deeper than that. Okay, so what is going on with our football club? It's an absolute shambles at the minute on the pitch. I'll be going into that throughout this show. I'll be analysing what's going on at the club with our manager, Thomas Frank, the players, the tactics, and what is to come for this football club. So if we look at the game yesterday, so on Sunday, as I said, we lost 3-0 away to Nottingham Forest. So this was the starting lineup that we went in with. Vicario in goal. It's like a 4-2-3-1. Porro right back, Romero, Van der Ven centre half, Spence left back, Gray, Bentancur centre midfielders, Kudos down the right, Colin Moani on the left with Simons in behind Richarlison. Now, on the face of it, a decent enough lineup. I don't think there would have been too many changes. Potentially, you could have made a case for Johnson starting somewhere along there, which maybe would have meant Kudos shifting to the left if possible at all. But that would have been one of our strongest 11s, I would say, from the players that are available. Maybe Polinia potentially starting in centre midfield. But Archie Gray, he's played the last few games, played well. He was to blame for the goal, the opening goal, actually, where Vicario has given him the ball in a tight area and Gray's had to touch, which has ultimately led to being intercepted and the goal going in. Now, looking back at that game, very, very disappointing. There's a lot we can make out of this. Vicario, for me, has been nowhere near good enough this season, potentially for the last 2 years, really. I would say last season he was poor. This season, it's just mistake after mistake, isn't it? The one against Fulham, the crowd got on his back. Rightly so. I'm not a fan of fans inside the stadium booing their own players whilst the game's going on. If you want to vent it at half-time, full-time, you mean free reign as far as I'm concerned. But during the game, you mean we shouldn't be booing our own players. But Vicario, he's just got that little habit in a minute of every time there's a mistake, whether it's his fault or not, he digs somebody out with all this gesturing and just get on with the game. Get on with the game, mate. Concentrate. You're not exactly pulling up trees yourself. And just get on with it. This blaming others. And he always seems to pick on the younger players. There was one last season, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but he dug Bergvall out big time. And he's given Gray pouters on Sunday yesterday. So I think this sets the wrong tone. He's part of that leadership group. He has been now for a couple of years. He's just one of those players that has got to just concentrate on his own game. If he's playing very well and he's not, if he's getting man of the match most weeks, which I would hope our keepers wouldn't be getting man of the match, because I hope the ball's up the other end of the pitch, of course. But I'm not a big fan, to be honest. I think that is very, very much a position that we can be looking to improve on. And I've seen in this morning's papers, they've been linking us with James Trafford from Manchester City. I'm not sure whether he's the answer or not. But I think the goalkeeping position is somewhere where we can certainly be looking to upgrade and replacing Vicario. Spence, look, he came with a bit of baggage, if you like, didn't really settle. Conte was calling him a club signing and things like this. He had his falling out with Neil Warnock from their time together in the Championship. He came up, he bided his time, didn't he? He had a couple of loan deals and it didn't really work out, if you like. But he was given an opportunity, he came in and he's taken it. He's got an England squad. So obviously there's something about him. But for me, his attitude stinks. He's got the ability, get on with the game. Every single game that he plays well, he'll stick a GIF up on or a picture up on his social media, like all this on a bloody dog lead and in his pocket and all this sort of crap. Just get on with it. Concentrate on your football. You haven't proven anything yet. You haven't proven anyone wrong. You've got to stick some sort of consistency together. Get your head down. If the manager decides to take you off, fine. No problem at all. Forget about it. Deal with it in the changing rooms, deal with it the next day, bang on his office door, have it out then. All this crap when he's throwing jackets on the floor and kicking up a fuss when he's taking off, ignoring the manager when it's full time and he's stomping past. That incident the other week when him and Van der Ven walked past Thomas Frank, not good enough for me. Applaud the crowd. They're the ones that are paying their hard-earned money. They're the ones that are giving up the time to come and support this absolute dross. Just get your head down, get off the pitch, sort it out in the changing rooms. Not good enough for me. Far too much hype around Jed Spence in a minute. He needs to get his head down and concentrate on his bloody game. Absolute rubbish attitude. Pedro Porro comes out most games. He had a little dig at the fans the other week. Rightly so. If he wants to have a little pop, have a pop. Fans pay the money. We'll have a pop at the players. You want to give it back, go for it. But get your own house in order first. Pedro Porro, for me, coming out yesterday, apologising to the fans. Oh, we're really, really sorry. It's the fans that pay the money. Yes, it is the fans that pay the money, but you are part of the problem. You need to get your head down, get on with your work, much the same as Spence. Sort your own game out before you start pointing the fingers and start grovelling to fans. All we want is 100% effort. We see this every single week. Give the effort, fans will be on your side. All right? After the game, it's all well and good apologising. Not worth it. Not as far as I'm concerned, my own opinion doesn't wash for me. Stick it out on the pitch. That's where we want to see the improvement. That's where we want to see the performances. I saw a stat last week, the week before. He's the third highest player in the league for being beaten, for being dribbled past. That is the problem. You need to sort your own game out, and then you can start grovelling to fans and saying how much you care and all this sort of crap. Get on with it. Much needed improvement from Porro needed. Archie Gray, all right, he's come in the last few games. He's a young lad. He's going to get those ups and downs. For me, I saw Frank come out after the game and saying that he'll learn from it. He should have, we see it every game, don't we? The keeper will play a ball in, it's a bounce pass straight into the midfielder who's coming in to offer that option from a goal kick. Bang, straight out to fullback, get rid. All right, he'll learn from that. He had the touch, he got beaten, goal. All right, he'll learn from that. But for me, that's the wrong position for Vicario to be playing that ball to him. It's too tight. He could see that there was an option on. The defender was up the attacker was up his back. He never had any time at all. And really, those two fullback balls out from Archie Gray with his back to play, those balls weren't on. For me, that's my opinion. All right, that ball was wrong. Vicario should have gone long, used his experience, learned from Fulham 2 weeks ago. Learn from that, get the ball out, let's play from there. All right, there's nothing wrong with knocking that ball long. I'm thinking that Archie Gray, being a young player, is an easy target. He's a great prospect. Let's look after him. Let's nurture him through, start him in the next game, build his confidence up, and he'll go from strength to strength. Speaking of young players, Lucas Bergvall, player of the year last year, absolutely superb, brilliant, absolutely cracking season he had last year. Not getting a kick. He's not playing. Why is he not in that starting 11? He should be playing. We're giving game time to people like Bentancur. A lot of the time, he's a passenger in these games. Or if you want to play him in an advanced position, Xavi, 2 half-decent games. All right, we rave about it, don't we? I think they're the performances that we've been waiting for, where the Brentford game against a very, very poor Brentford team. Let's have this right, shall we? We played well against Brentford, got a little bit carried away, but Xavi did all right. But Brentford were shocking. They were poor. All right, let's not get too carried away with that. Went into Slavia, rode our luck at times. All right, they're a poor side. Poor side. At times, we rode our luck again defensively. All right, we haven't quite got that balance right, have we, from defence to attack through midfield. But let's have it right here. Xavi, there's a lot more to come from him. And if Bergvall needs to play in that position, which I think he can play, that number 10, let's get him in there. Let's get him playing. All right, Kudos for me as well. This is a bit of an attack on all the players here, isn't it? Kudos for me, far too greedy. He's trying to beat, all right, it's all well and good beating your man, but he's running up blind alleys. He's getting his head down. He's trying too much to beat that man. And maybe he's taking that responsibility and trying to get that work rate and that creativity. He feels like being a big money signing. There's a lot of expectation. But for me, far too greedy. There's a lot of times when that ball is on, give that ball. Give the bloody ball. All right, there's a lack of end product from Kudus as well. Should be getting a lot more goals and assists for the position he gets in. Odebear, Tao, Johnson, people like that, not doing anywhere near enough to nail down positions. Odebear's like running around like an headless chicken most of the time. Tao, for me, came on against Slavia Prague. Did all right against a poor side, did okay, but those three players are not doing enough. In those cameos, when they come on and they get their opportunity, but Odebear's getting a lot of game time now, you really need to start stepping up. You're playing for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Think of these great wingers we've had down the years. I mean, people like Chris Waddle, David Ginola, Gareth Bale, all these people that have been playing out in your positions, and you're trying to get away with half-hearted like performances. Nowhere near good enough. Not doing enough to warrant game time for me. Colin Moani did all right yesterday. Probably one of our better players yesterday, but still a lot more to come from him. We want more. Richarlison, not good enough. Not good enough. He gets the goals, but he's in and out performance-wise. Hold-up play, rolling around on the floor, poor attitude, head's always down like the world's against him. He's got to be producing more. That is certainly a position where we need a lot more change. Hopefully in January, that kind of left-sided. Hopefully Semenyo will come in, and also I'll go and get another striker. Solanke, you can't rely on him at all. He's made a paper. God knows what's going on with this injury, but we need performances. We need something to change up front. Right, the Thomas Frank. Here we go. For me, has he got the trust of the fans? I'm not so sure. I think the last week, 2 weeks, we've certainly seen a change. I'm not saying that the whole fan base is against him and want him sacked. There's a lot of media attention on this now. Now, once that starts turning, you're under that microscope, which perhaps he never had at Brentford. That's where you really, really have to step up now. And every decision he makes, every substitute, every decision gets scrutinised. For me, I think the fans are behind him. I think he's a nice enough bloke. He sits there. He says it how it is. Probably a bit too negative in his tactics. He's come out quite a few times and said that he's building from the back. He's building those phases where it's defence, midfield, attack. Those phase 1, 2, and 3 he keeps talking about. All right, so we've gone from a manager the last 2 years in Ange Postecoglou, who has been all-out attack and not a lot of priority defensively. Came out himself and said that he didn't really do a lot of work on corners, mate. But to go from that to a complete flip now to trying to balance it out and have that balance between defense and attack does take a lot of work on a training ground, which maybe isn't getting the hours because of the Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the Champions League and things like that, which he never had at Brentford, did he? He was pretty much playing weekend to weekend, barring the odd cup run or whatever. So I think that's a big adjustment for him. And something that he really needs to get a grip of quick, because this is a big job. And as we've seen in the past with a lot of managers, which I'll go on to in a minute, this job will swallow you up. So he's building at the back, but I think he is trying to do that, but at the cost of the attack, because our XG, which they put a lot of focus on now, don't we? When it's like 0.05 and things like this, it's just nowhere near good enough, is it? I mean, we're Tottenham. We love attacking football. So we need to bring that back. He is a proper coach. Do you know what I mean? He loves the training ground. He gets involved, where Postecoglou, admittedly himself, would say that he didn't do a lot out on the training ground. Kind of left it to his coaches. So that kind of Monday to Friday, if you like, he didn't really get too involved. It was the kind of build up to the match day, and that when Ange Postecoglou got involved. I think Frank is a lot more hands-on. Maybe there's an adjustment for that. Is it the quality of the coaching, the quality of the coaches, the staff, the quality of Frank? I don't know. But one thing that he does need, and he did touch on, which I'll go into in a minute, is that we do need to give time. No matter what manager comes in, they do need time, and they also need backing. And that is coming up in January. So we're only a couple of weeks away. Where are we now? The 15th. I'm recording this on Monday, the 15th of December. So we're only a couple of weeks, just over 2 weeks away from that January transfer window opening. And he did say in his press conference on Friday, ahead of the Forest game, that we will be active in January. We will be doing business. He didn't say, well, there's ins or outs, but we will be doing business. But he did say that we need to do that early. Now, we've put a lot of emphasis in the past with our transfer windows on Daniel Levy penny pinching, leaving it until the last minute in January, trying to get that little bargain basement deal. Now, we're about to find out how much that was Levy himself or whether that was the club. Now, we need to go out and if the board look at it and say, right, Thomas Frank, you're our man, albeit it was a Daniel Levy appointment, who's obviously no longer at the club. If Thomas Frank is our man, we need to back him, and then we need to give him the money and the freedom to do what he needs to do to mould this squad into what he needs to mould this squad into. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. I'd imagine it would be in the higher end of the pitch. So like kind of maybe a left-sided player attacking wise is definitely a priority for me. So someone like Semenyo, there's been a lot of rumours the last couple of weeks from Bournemouth. Go out and get him. Go out and get him. This is the time now for Vinay and Paratici and Langer and people like that who are involved at the top end of the club to back it. They've done all the talk. It's all well and nice putting your stupid little videos out for 10 minutes out on the Tottenham website and all the social media pages. But now is the time when all those words turn into action. That's what we need, is for you to come out now and say, right, bang. You don't need to start mentioning figures and how much money we've got to spend and how much investment the Lewis family are putting into the club. Let's go and see that with quality on the pitch. All right. So yeah, we'll see. The one thing for me with Frank, and that might be a little bit hesitant, is that Paratici's come in since Daniel Levy's left, and also since Frank has been appointed. Now, Paratici at the club carries a lot of weight, in my opinion, and they've brought him in to make changes. So what that looks like, I don't know. Whether Paratici is a fan of Frank, I really don't know. He's come out with a video, hasn't he, which he did alongside Langer and backed Frank, which they're not going to say any different. But whether Paratici wants somebody in, you mean he likes the Italian managers, don't he? So whether he's looking down that kind of route or whether they're looking at Xavi, the former Barcelona player who's obviously come out and said that he recently that he'd like to manage in the Premier League, we'll see. But does Paratici spell bad news for Thomas Frank? I don't know. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see where that one pans out and whether we get back in January. I think the first week in January will be very, very telling. If we go out and spend a bit of money, then potentially they're all in on Frank. If it's looking a couple of weeks in and we're a bit not a lot's happening, then for me that spells bad news for Thomas Frank. I've always been, all our fans were quite a lot of our fans and football fans in general really, I've always been, we need to go and spend big, we need to spend big. For me, I've always had the opinion, it doesn't matter how much you spend, you need to spend the money correctly. We've gone out previously and spent big money in comparison to what we spent previously on people like Ndombele and stuff like that, and it hasn't really worked out. So for me, it's buying the right player that works for the system, and not just looking at thinking that a big money player is going to come in and solve our problems, because we've seen before it doesn't work. Brentford, Brighton, teams like that, Bournemouth, they've shown that proper homework, proper scouting works. Because you could run a list off of a very, very good 11 that those guys have all bought players for under £15 million each and sold on for 2, 3, 4 times that amount. So I think I'm not saying we're looking to buy players to sell, but there are a lot of talented footballers out there that can come in and affect our 11. But I would like to see a slight contradiction on what I've said. I would like to see us go out and make a statement sign. Semenyo would be perfect. He's a position we like. He's got pace, power, scores goals, assists, worked hard, and he's proven himself in the Premier League. And I think a step up, albeit Bournemouth to Tottenham probably isn't that big of a step up at the minute. I think it would be a great move all round. So Semenyo for me, go and get that done first week of the transfer window. Put your money where your mouth is. Back Frank, back the project. Shown that we are on a different course now to what we have been, and go for it from there. Looking back at the game on Sunday, so yesterday, attacking wise, if we look at like the shots, 15 shots to 6, only the one on target for us, 1 shot off target. Shots inside the box, 1. It's just poor reading, isn't it? Total crosses, 19% completed to their 15. Defensively, if you look at the stats, 420 passes for us, 392. So we kind of out past them, but it's kind of what we're doing with those passes. These stats are always misleading. If you're just pinging it across the back 4, or whatever it may be, you can keep the ball as long as you want, but it's what you do with the ball. Through balls, 0. Touches 627, touches in the opposition box 13 compared to their 24, so almost double for them. Tackles 120, always expect us to be reasonably high on that. 6 blocks, 11 interceptions, 17 clearances, 3 saves by Vicario. If we look, 47% possession, or nearly 48% for them, 52 for us. 0.33 expected goals compared to their 2.32. This is, again, we are very, very consistently below that 0.5, really, which is nowhere near good enough, is it? Nowhere near. Big chances, 0. Free corners, it's just poor reading. Look at the league table. We're sitting currently in 11th, 22 points. Do you know what I mean? We're still in it. This is the thing. There's still a lot there for us to be hopeful about. But I was saying earlier about the managers and things like that. So Thomas Frank, these are just league games. 15 league games in charge of Tottenham. Won 6, drew 4, lost 5. 25 goals scored, 18 against, so +7 goal difference with 40% win percentage. Compare that to Postecoglou over 76 games, 40.79. So he had a slightly higher win percentage. But if you look at the goals scored and against, 138 for and 126 conceded. So we were certainly entertaining, but with us at the minute, if you look at our 15 games under Frank, 25, that's less than 2 goals a game, where Postecoglou was roughly about the same, wasn't he? Look at those stats. Ryan Mason would discount his record, really. He only had 9 games in charge, but 55%, or just over 55% win percentage. Christian Salini, another one, 4 games in charge. He was only a stand-in, wasn't he? A temporary manager. So Conte was the last kind of full-time one before Postecoglou. If you look at his 57% win percentage, and before him, Nuno only did 10 games, but 50%. Mourinho, 58 games played, 46%, and Maurizio Pochettino, 55%, 202 games. So that's probably the barometer, really, for me, is that kind of Pochettino era. 55% is where you need to start looking. That 55 to 60%, really. 55 is probably the sweet spot for us. Over 4, 5, 6 seasons is where you want to be for competing at the higher end of the table, really. I think since the Premier League started, there was a stat I saw this week. We were, I'll just get rid of that in a minute. I think since the Premier League started, I saw a stat the other day that we were the fifth, the overall table, if you like, since the Premier League started. So that's probably, there was debate on national radio, I think it was on TalkSport or 5 Live, where they were debating whether we were actually a top 6 side. I think it was yesterday, actually, on Sunday. Yeah, it was on TalkSport with Majestic and Alan Pardew, the former West Ham and Newcastle manager. They were kind of saying whether we were a top 6 side. Alan Pardew debating that we weren't, and then Majestic put the stats up. And over the Premier League since it started, we were 5th. And we're consistently hitting that top 5 in. I think we were actually top 5 for trophies won as well, which was surprising. That surprised me. But then, if you think the trophies are normally dished out amongst Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Man City, aren't they, since Premier League started? So, we will see how that kind of pans out. So, if we look at I said about just now the signings we've made since the Premier League, or over the last couple of years. Moani, obviously, in on loan. Xavi Simons. So this transfer window just gone. Simons was the big one, wasn't he? Just under 52 million. Polini on loan. Kudus, 55 million, the highest transfer fee paid in the summer. 5 million for Kota Taka, who's back in training now by all accounts, so we may start seeing a bit of him. Luka Vuskovic, I'm not exactly sure whether there's a recall on him to come back in January or not, but certainly he's doing very, very well in Germany in the Bundesliga. Matis Tal, 30 million, made his deal permanent, and Kevin Danso, as well, he was a loan, wasn't he? But we made that permanent for 21 million. If you look down through, though, there's not, like Solanke, 65 million. We've not really seen the best of him. We had a half-decent start last season, played well last season, but nothing this season. Archie Gray, 40 million, Dragashin back training and playing, I keep saying reserve games, kind of like under 21 behind closed door games. So we may well start to see him on the bench in the next couple of weeks. Brennan Johnson, 47, did well last season, 19 goals, I think it was last season. Oh, to get a kick this year, is he? Veliz, people like that on loan, Van der Ven. So it's Madison is on that list. I think if we go down to this list, you'll see people like Kulusevski. Basuma, what's happening with him? Obviously had his illegal high thing the other day. He's come out and apologised and all this kind of stuff, but for me, doesn't wash, get rid. Given the extra year, I know Tottenham have got a year extra on his contract if we want to take it. If no one's going to take him in January, give him the extra year and then bid him off next summer for me. Basuma, loads of ability, attitude, absolutely stinks. Get rid. Kulusevski, probably looking at January, February until he's back, and we'll see the best. Well, until we start seeing him again. So he'll be a much needed player coming back in. For me, he's certainly someone that we've missed. Udogie on that list, 21 million quid. Benton Kerr, people like this. So yeah, they're the signings over the last few seasons. I think for me, January's a massive window. We really need to kind of clear out a few players, Basuma, people like that, and bring in a bit of quality. That's some. I don't want to go over it again, but Semenyo for me is the one that we need. So if we look back at yesterday, so not the Forest game, after the game, the media spoke to Thomas Frank, and the direct question was, you said before the game that you want to see more aggression, positive, brave, offence-minded football, but the team only had one shot on target, which is what we said just now. Are the players not taking it on board? This is what Frank said word for word. No, I think it's very simple. If you don't perform, you can say all the right things. If you're a little bit out of sync, then you can see things like this. When you're on track and in sync, you see the last three performances. So that's very simple. If you perform, you keep doing the right thing, then it makes it easier, of course. And then I just think that the little small thing, that is difficult. We win together, we lose together, but we can't pass the ball on the pitch. So if we lose the ball 25 times, I think it's fair to say that it's pretty difficult to create something. That's what Thomas Frank speaking after the game against Nottingham Forest yesterday. Couldn't agree more, to be honest. That is the problem. It's all well and good before the game saying we're going to be brave, positive, offensive-minded and stuff like that, but we need to come out and see it. Porro coming out with his head down, apologising to the fans. Doesn't wash from me, I'm afraid. Start sticking it in when you've got the opportunity before that, out on that green stuff. Thomas Frank was also asked, does that come into when you're 2-0 down and make 3 subs? And one of them is Ben Davis. One of them is João Palhinha. I think a lot of fans are hoping for attacking players, but is that part of the reason? Because you're looking to keep the ball. This is kind of a bit of a loaded question. I think they're kind of saying we're going more defensive, but then Frank responded by saying, no, we had 4 offensive players on the pitch. I think that's fair to say. So the fact that we just go back to the bit before where I say we were disjointed. So if you're disjointed, you can have 11 offensive players on the pitch. It will not help. So we need to be in sync, and that it helps. And hopefully we can find a way back after that. I think he's basically saying we just need to get a foothold in the game. By bringing on defensive players, although it seems like we're being defensive, we're just trying to get that balance right and then hopefully nick a goal and it's game on again, isn't it? But for me, sometimes you've got to take a chance. It wasn't working, was it? You can see it right from the start. They've hit the post. Forest is a tough place to go for me. They've been on decent form, haven't they? I think they've won, 7 out of 12 now or 7 under Sean Dyche. But it's certainly one of those games where we've got to be going to Forest. And all right, you're not going to, it's a Premier League. Every game's a tough game. You've got to earn the right to play, but you've got to earn the right to play. We didn't earn the right yesterday, and we got what we deserved. And he's gone on Archie Gray's mistake. Is that something he'll simply have to learn from as a young player? Now, I don't like this. I've said just now, I think Vicario's ball should have been better. I think Archie Gray's an easy one to dig out. But Thomas Frank has said, yeah, that happens. I've said it before, mistakes happen, stuff like that. Of course, I'll be irritated about it because you like to avoid it, but he will learn. I think it was a classic thing you see week in, week out. It's ball playing to one of the other 2 sitters, bounce it up, first touch, not to take a touch. He'll learn from that. I'm pretty sure he'll use 1 touch next time. He probably will. But for me, Vicario should have seen that situation, been more experienced, and just he can see the full pitch in front of him as a keeper. Gray's coming in, he's given that option. And a lot of time they make that run into the edge of the box, not to necessarily get the ball, but to create that space in behind so he can pop it forward, gives the space for Richarlison or a midfielder to drop in. I think Vicario, for me, was at fault there. So on that, the reporter has asked him, no issue with the goalkeeper then, and Thomas Franks responded by saying, no, I think you see that every week in the Premier League from every team all over the world, so there's no problem with that. I think my opinion is that you do, but like I've just touched on, I think that situation was probably a little bit unique because I don't think there was anything on out wide out there. The reporter said, did you have any issues with Jez Spence arguing while coming off and throwing his jacket about? And Thomas Frank has replied, probably a bit of a conservative reply, actually. He said, you're the third one that said that to me today. I didn't see it. Of course, I will look back to be aware of it. I think there can be 3 reasons. He can be disappointed with his own performance, the team's performance. He can be disappointed with being subbed off. I'll ask him about that. So they probably had a chat after the game or even today. talk about that one. But for me, like I've said earlier, Jed Spence, I think, is that too shocking. That's 2 now in a couple of weeks, where he's disrespected the manager. And for me, I think there is that disharmony between some of the players aren't happy and characters like Spence. Just spitting a dummy, isn't he? His attitude needs to be a lot better than what it is. And we'll see how we go. I just think Spence is one of those characters where he's getting a little bit too big for his boots, getting a little bit ahead of himself and thinking that he's kind of proven a lot of people wrong, which he probably has to a degree. But in saying that, you need to just keep focused. You've got a World Cup coming up at the end of the season, where you're hoping they're going to be in around that squad, potentially in around that 11. Get your cards back in order and just sort it all out. All right. Not that he's watching this channel anyway, but you get the sentiment. And the final question we're going to go into is you're trying to bed in all these new ideas, but you're at a club where the average time span of managers hasn't been that long. Do you feel that you'll get the time to put everything you want into place? And Thomas Frank replied, "See, I can't see why not. I think it's pretty evident that if no one gets the time, no one can turn things around. This is not a quick fix." And I agree. It's not a quick fix to go from one extreme of Postecoglou football to moving that on and trying to be more balanced and compete at the top. I do agree. He does need time, but he also needs backing financially. And we will see, like I've touched on earlier, how that will pan out in January. My opinion, just to sum up, will he get given the time? I think he will. I think he'll be given this season at least, only because I think he's coming from a strong position in the sense of, now don't get me wrong on this one, where we finished 17th last season. Now, I'm not saying Tottenham are a 17th place team, because there are a lot of factors involved last season, injuries being one of them, as to why we finished 17th. The league form, I think we lost, 22 league games out of 38, which is nowhere near good enough for Tottenham. And we were very, very lucky that we weren't much closer to relegation, to be honest, because the other 3 teams were so poor. But we did win a trophy last year, which kind of saved last season for me. And I've had the conversation many a time with people travelling up to games from down here in Cornwall, saying that would we take a trophy and finish 17th over the years? And we've said, yeah, it's got to be a trophy. And that's what we had last season. But I don't think Thomas Frank, if he went into the boardroom and tried to fight his case, I don't think he would have any valid argument if he made the point that we finished 17th last season. So anything above that is better, because I don't think it is. I think a club like us should be in and around the top 6, and looking to push on into that top 4. A good season for us is top 6 at the minute. And I think that's still where we should be aiming. And if we get back in January, it's still there for us to push on, but there needs to be a massive improvement on what we've seen already, because a lot of the games, Bournemouth at home, do you know what I mean? Fulham at home. You mean Wolves at home? You mean Wolves at home, for Christ's sake? Do you know what I mean? We're lucky to get a point out of that one. These games, we've got to be better. And that's going to be the sign going forward. But that's my opinion. I just thought I'd stick a video out, have a quick rant, or a long rant. It's gone on for 30 odd minutes, but a long rant about what's happened yesterday, and just kind of dissecting a little bit about where we are as a club. Ultimately, to summarise, I think we need to back him back Thomas Frank in January. It's only a couple of weeks away, and give him that time. I'm very much with him. I think he is a good manager. He's a good bloke. From what I see, he's very, he seems very amenable, and he says it how it is. I do like him, but we do need to give him time. We need to back him. But there's a lot of buts here. We need an improvement in performances and results, and that needs to happen quick. And Liverpool at home next week, so a nice easy one against fellow relegation strugglers, although they've picked up, haven't they? So Dr. Tottenham, we'll see you next week, Liverpool. I'll stick a live video out towards the end of this week, where we can come on. If you do want to come on and join in the live videos, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can email us, which is whenthecockerelcrows@gmail.com. That's whenthecockerelcrows@gmail.com. I'll send you an email with a link, and you just click on it, comes straight in. You don't need to download anything at all. You just need to click on the link, and it's in there. So you'll come into like a little green room and a back room, and then I'll bring you in when we're ready, and you can let it all off your chest, talk about all things Tottenham. There's another way you can get involved as well. Look us up on Facebook, so search for When the Cockerel Crows, on Facebook. So use that as separate words, not all one word. When the Cockerel Crows, and I'll stick links on there before we go live. So normally a couple of hours before we go live, and you just click on the link from there and join it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and all that kind of thing. Let me know in the comments as well. Let me know what you think I've spoken about. Do you know what I mean? It's my opinion. I'm sure you have got your own opinion. So let me know. I'm not sure you don't agree with everything I've said. You might agree with some of it. You might agree with none of it. Just let me know in the comments. If there's anything you want me to talk about in future shows, then do let me know. We've got that live show coming up. It's probably going to be Thursday night this week, 8 o'clock UK time. So let me know anything you want us to talk about, and I'll bring it up and get involved. There is like a messenger thing on the YouTube when we go live as well, so we can discuss anything you want. And we've got some really exciting guests coming up in the next few weeks, people that have played for Tottenham and been involved with Tottenham as well for many, many years. Some proper Tottenham legends coming on the show. We had Steve Perriman previously. We've had Roy Rayland, the kit manager at Tottenham for 29 years, sorting out all those smelly socks and shirts and stuff, and all of the backroom managers that he would have seen and come and go, and the changes at the football club. Roy Rayland was absolutely amazing. He was so good. I might see if I can get him on again at some point in the future. He was really good. Maybe we can do like a question and answer or something with Roy. He was brilliant and very, very good value, and so knowledgeable as well, and a proper Tottenham fan like us, which always helps. So yeah, like and subscribe and all that kind of jazz. YouTube, Facebook, and things like that. Keep the faith, and what's more to say other than come on, you Spurs.